من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واستعينوا بالصبر والصلاة وإنها لكبيرة إلا على خاشعين, and seek assistance with patience and prayer, and surely it is a big thing except for those who have humility. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm going to thank the brothers again for inviting me up, and also we want to send a special thanks for all of the brothers and sisters who helped prepare the Husainiya and helping cleaning and helping cooking and making tea and keeping it all ready. Please give a loud salawat for them. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And also we want to send a special thank you to all of the brothers and sisters who are volunteering at the school and performing this very important wajib of teaching the next generation. Please give a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I think sometimes we forget that these things are actually duties and they are wajib kifai, meaning that it is not enough for us when we come to an area just to kind of sit back and be spectators. We have a duty to spread the message of Islam, to keep ourselves involved, to help Islam go to the next generation. Now, it doesn't mean each and every individual has to do each and everything. There's going to be some brothers and sisters who are going to have maybe more time. Another one is going to have maybe more money. Another one is going to have maybe more physical ability. But it's extremely important for everyone to contribute what they are able to keep these efforts going. Now, sometimes people have this question of, is it even, why are we even in these countries? Why aren't we only in, the countries which Islam is known for being, back Iraq and Iran and Sham and whatever? Why do we even come here? Is it even allowed? Sometimes people raise this doubt, or this, they say maybe we're falling into sin and we're making problems and stuff like that. But Islam is a religion which is supposed to be for all people, for all times, and to spread around the world. And maybe it's the plan of Allah to make this circumstances that the Muslims are able to be motivated, because if everything was great back home and perfect, we would not be motivated to move anywhere. And the people in the West would stay in Jahiliyyah. They wouldn't know. They would have no information. And I'm speaking as a person who is from the West. Now, we had some, and inshallah, I'll share the full story with you later, but we had some information about Islam and how to do things and things like that. But a lot of it was very, in a book. We have an imagination about it. But we don't know how it looks in action. It's very interesting, though, that Allah allowed Islam to come to the West without really much effort from the mu'mineen. Somehow it came anyway. So it shows that it's the plan of Allah. But back to the point that we didn't know what a masjid looks like. We didn't know how the interaction is. You actually have to see somebody doing it. You have to see the Eid being carried. You have to see it happening. You just read it in a book, you don't know, you imagine it. So when we had brothers and sisters who came from, when I was growing up, Palestine, we had brothers and sisters from some of these other countries, it gave us an example of how to do it. We had never seen anyone do a majlis for Imam Hussain. So until brothers from the subcontinent came and they had their Hussainiyat, we would finally had an opportunity even to now see how this Imam Hussain alayhi salam is remembered. Please give us salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so it's a very important role bringing the akhlaq of the Ahl al-Bayt into the other countries. Because remember, before in the past, the different armies and stuff used to go, but it would be the thing that changed the people in different countries would be from tijarat, from interaction, from talking to people. Because the armies at the time of this, like Bani Umayyah and Bani Abbas and stuff, they didn't care if the people became Muslim or not. They actually preferred they stay what they are so they can charge them more taxes. But the people on their own, because of interacting with a higher level of akhlaq, a higher level of honesty, a higher level of this, that, and the other, the people became drawn to Islam. It didn't, like the whole idea in the West that Islam spread by the sword or something. It's not true. Once the people had an opportunity to choose between what they were doing before and what they were doing after, they became pulled towards Islam. A lot of if you see, there's, with the younger generation, a lot of the hatred that this sort of, I guess, just based on ignorance that people had towards Islam, the younger generation, we sing in the protest and things like that, they don't have it. Why? Because these younger children have Muslim friends. They see how Muslims behave. They grew up with them. So it doesn't come to their mind. This is not somebody from Mars. It's not so all of these rumors, sometimes when they wanted to do their little genocide that they have now, first thing they went is to try to bring back Islamophobia and racism and stuff. And with the people who are 80, 90 years old, they're like, yeah, sure. They go along with it. But the younger generation who have Muslim friends, have Muslim co-workers, it didn't go through as well. So it's a very important job to make sure that ourselves, we stay obviously on the right path. And by doing this work, doing this Amr bil Ma'ruf, one of the things is that it keeps us in the right path. Because now I'm invested in the religion when I'm trying to teach new people, I'm trying to bring people in. It keeps me in the religion. So first the effect is on me, then it actually goes to the other person. But it has the effect of changing the society bit by bit. And I can say this in that because of Islam, the first community that really entered in the Western Hemisphere was the African American community, via people like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali and people like this, raised this awareness of Islam. And what's very interesting is that in the African American community, Islam is associated with this call for justice. Because they think that this has, I don't know much about Islam, but I think that it has something to do with calling for justice for my people and calling for fairness between the people and ending racism and injustice. So the people have this image because of people like Malcolm X. It's very respected. Sometimes they, when because I work a regular job, when I'm working with the African American community, when they realize that I'm Muslim, they have extra respect. They're like, oh yeah, you're one of these people who they know that, because they know that you're refusing alcohol, they know that you're refusing to eat pork, you're refusing to do this. They say, oh wow, you're actually a practicing Muslim. They think, oh, this is something to be looked at and to be admired. And they encourage their children actually to become Muslim. So this is something that can happen with, obviously, it happened with one qawm, it can happen with other aqwam as well. That these people, when they see the interaction, we have so many people that, we had a little tiny masjid and we didn't really do much da'wah. This is back in Houston. Every week we had 1 person, 2 people would convert. And sometimes we were like, this person, he probably, shaitan comes to you, he wants to discourage your efforts. He's like, this person, he probably came just to get the money or something like that, and he's going to go away. And every now and again, yeah, they were. Or maybe he was, who knows, maybe he was actually sincere and mukhlis at the time, but, dunya pulls him back off the way. But sometimes I'm like walking in the street and somebody stops me. He's like, Sheikh Farouk. And I'm like, how does he know I'm a sheikh? And this is like, yeah, you brought me into Islam way back 5 years ago in the masjid. I'm like, I don't remember this guy from anywhere. He's like super happy to see me. The guy stuck with it. It's really interesting. And there was another one, a young, I remember a brother, he was Mexican. And when you see him, he had like neck tattoo, things like that. You're like, this guy, We're like, yeah, we have, inshallah, he's good. 20 years later, you see his kids were small, now they're big. They kept coming to the masjid. They stuck with it. They're participating in the events. So we don't see the whole thing. Sometimes we're like, no, that every effort that we're making and everything that we're doing, putting ourselves in the khidmat of Allah, is having that effect. There's a place you can call people to. Sometimes somebody will walk up to you, is there somewhere I can go to see masjid or see what Muslims are doing? Because there's a Husainiyah, it's not just for us, it's for the people here. Blessings come because of the masjid, it'll bless the other buildings, the things like that besides, and help the people here. So it's a big blessing, and it is an important duty to keep these centers alive even here. And it's important that people are here, and it's pulling the society in this direction. Like, how when there's some of the Muslim society, some of their people over there become fasid. It starts pulling the society the other way. So we need to, in those societies, obviously, you need to straighten those people out, help them out. Inshallah, they see the light. But at the same time, when there's Muslims here, it pulls these societies towards the right path. When there's a presence of Muslims who are active, who are giving pushback to the wrong ideas, it doesn't let it sweep through the society like wildfire. Please give us salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Whenever we read these verses about the salat, and this is tying into what I was talking, it doesn't just say that salli, just pray. They always are saying aqimus salat, which is slightly different when you think about it. Establish the prayer. That praying is a huge part of our religion. I remember there's people who they only pray just when something goes wrong, just they make some sort of dua. Or they only pray, sometimes there's some people that they only pray on one day of the week when they have their religious ceremonies. Or one time a year even. This is extremely important for keeping us on the right path, on a personal level. And it's our connection with Allah. We have a lot of different benefits from this prayer. I remember when this, which it passed a little bit, but the U.S. was making noises that they were going to drop a nuclear weapon on Iran. And then we were talking, was giving a speech, and it said sometimes you're in a position that you do different things. Sometimes you can do amal bil ma'ruf with your hand. Sometimes you can only do it with your tongue. But sometimes all you can do is, send thoughts and prayers. And they're like, oh yeah, you send thoughts and prayers. It doesn't have any. No, this is the most important thing. If we think that these different people who were destroyed, it would be with the prayers of the Prophet. You had the story of the Amal Fil, right? When the Abraha, he's the superpower at the time. The nuclear weapon of the time was the elephant for them, because people had horses and they had camels and they had this. But if you have a horse and somebody has an elephant, he's going to defeat you. The horse will get scared and run from the elephant, because they get on the elephant, they have spears, and if you try to stand in front of the elephant will run you over. If you try to attack the elephant, they shoot arrows at you. So nothing can beat an elephant. So when this Abraha, he built the people of Yemen, they asked him to come, send help. Actually, the people of Yemen were attacked, right? And so they asked the Romans to send help. And the Romans said, yeah, we're too far. There's Christians in Yemen. They said, we're too far away. We can't send any help. It's too far for our soldiers. So send a message to the Ethiopians and they'll send somebody. So they sent Abraha, this general, powerful general, and he won and he took over the country. And then he began to feel very good about himself, and he built a huge church. And then he ordered the Arabs to come and pray at the church, and they insisted on going to the Kaaba because that was their site. And Abraha should have known better, because even in their holy books, they knew that Mecca is a holy site. But he was just so arrogant about himself now that he won this Fawzun Adim that he thought he could now control the religion. He's ordered the Arabs to come and to pray at his church, and they refused. Finally, one of them came and he defiled the church. And so he got so angry, he said, I'm going to go and I'm going to destroy the Kaaba. They're insisting on going to the Kaaba. I'm going to go and make the Kaaba flat. So he got his army and he got his elephants and he marched out into the desert. And they sent the Arabs decided, no, this is our holy site. And remember, at this time, they were still closer to the Hanif religion. And so they tried to fight against him. But it's the nuclear bomb of the time. It's the F-35 of the time. And so he defeated them with his elephants. And he came all the way to the Kaaba, surrounded the Kaaba, and he captured some camels that were outside the Kaaba, and they belonged to Abdul Muttalib. So all of the Quraysh said, what are we going to do? He's going to come, he's going to destroy the Kaaba. He has elephants and he has arrows and he has armor and this and that. Is a professional army. We have, a little sword and this and that and the other. We can't stand up to this. So Abdul Muttalib said, don't worry. He said, go to the mountains. He said, I'll go and I'll deal with Abraha. So he came to Abraha. And Abraha said, who are you? He said, I'm Abdul Muttalib. And he saw from his appearance and his manners that he realized this is from the lineage of Prophet Ibrahim. And he was so impressed with him. He said, wow, mashallah, this is a really amazing person. He said, son of the Prophet Ibrahim, any request you have, I'll give it to you. So Abdul Muttalib said, there were some camels that you captured, those are mine. And then Abraha, there was camels that I captured. He said, did I capture some camels? They said, yeah, we got some camels. He said, yeah. He said, why are you asking about the camels? I'm here to destroy the Kaaba. And you're going to ask me for some camels? He said, the house, he said, Ana Rabbul Ibil. He said, I'm the Lord of the camels. Lil Bayti Rabbun Yahmi. And the house has a Lord who will protect it. And Abraha got shocked. And he was impressed, and also he was angry because he was like, how dare he basically defy me? I'm in control of the situation. I get to say who lives and who dies. I have a superpower. I have this army. He said, give him back the camels. I'm going to come. He said, you were big in my eyes and now you're low because you asked about these camels. So now I'm going to send my army and I'm going to destroy the Kaaba. Abdul Muttalib went back and he got Abu Talib and he got the Prophet's father, Abdullah, and they made a dua at the Kaaba. So Abraham and his army was coming, and then they sent what did Allah send? This ababil, these little birds, and threw stones at them and destroyed this army. فَأَرْسَلَ عَلَيْهِمْ طَيْرًا ababil. Meaning, like, it can be that these people, they have so much confidence in the dunya and this and that, I can destroy this and I can do that and I can do the other. No. The power of this salat is the real thing. Salat bima'na dua. That it can change anything. So many things is just in the hands of, everything is in the hands. It's that reminder to us that everything is in the hands of Allah. So Allah destroyed that particular army, and also He can do anything. That they say that salat or dua is the silah al-anbiya. Dua is the weapon of the Prophet. That it's extremely important for us to keep this in our minds. Please give us salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So when we want to look at some of the benefits of the salat, we have one hadith which is part of a bigger hadith from Fatima Zahra salamu alayha. Please give us salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And she says, فَجَعَلَ اللَّهُ إِيمَانًا تَطْهِيرًا لَكُمْ مِنَ الشِّرْكِ وَالصَّلَاةِ تَنْزِيهًا لَكُمْ عَنِ الْكِبْرِ. That Allah made iman, which is faith, is to clean you from shirk. And salat is to keep you away from arrogance. So first of all, let's go to the first part first, and we go to the second part second. First of all, this iman, they're talking about this shahadatain that we have to say. So this, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It's very interesting. It's funny, there's a movement of people who they try to downgrade the importance of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They try to downgrade the importance of hadith. Try to downgrade the importance of sunnah. They say, we just believe in tawheed. Just mukhlasan. We just want the Quran. We do the hadith fiha shak. We have doubts. Because you don't know to 100%, is this a true hadith or a false hadith? You can't prove it scientifically. So we have doubt, we just want the Quran. And then by that, they're actually attacking the position of the Rasulullah. But Allah there's also some of these Wahhab, you don't even want to repeat the things that they say. Say that they're basically trying to put the position of the Prophet like some who just gives you the message and then after that he's gone. Say, I don't want, like, once he gives me the message, what do I need him for? Like, a person comes and he delivers an Amazon package. You shake his hand, you say, thank you for your Amazon package, and you send him about his way. So the point was just to give them the Quran. And after that, they don't have any concern. But if you look at it, Allah put that you have to say, after the shahadat of Allah, you have to say, and Muhammad is his messenger. Please give us salawat. For multiple reasons. But Fatima is saying to keep you away from shirk. Why is it the two together that they keep you from shirk and not just the one by itself? Why is it the two together? You should just say, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and then be done with it. Why is it that you have to say, Muhammad Rasulullah? And then the Prophet says, no, if you say Muhammad Rasulullah, you have to say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Why is there these pieces on it? Why can't I just get away with it? Allah has created me. I worship Allah, and I don't have any need for any of the khalq. Maybe somebody makes this shikayat. Maybe somebody famous. Maybe somebody arif. Maybe somebody who worshipped Allah for thousands and thousands and thousands of years makes this shikayat. It's like shaitan. He says, I just want to worship Allah directly. I don't have any need for this. And Allah batiled all of those actions because He didn't want to make one sajda. He used to make 1,000 years sajda. One sajda would be that. Allah said, if you don't accept this wali that I have placed over you, none of those actions have any meaning. You can make every salat, you can make every zakat, you can make every hajj, you can do jihad fi sabilillah. If you don't accept the walayat that I've put over you, batil. Say, no, but if I give you a test, and in my test I say, first things first, I want everybody to write their name at the top of the test. And then after that, start filling out the little, the little bubbles that we have. If you just fill out all the bubbles and you hand in your test, I say, go back, write your name. He said, no, I just want to fill out the test. I said, no. I said, fill out your name. It's my test. I told you, fill your name out at the top. Then hand in your test. If there's no name, the grade is not accepted. I'm going to take it. I'm going to throw it in the trash. Allah has that right. So the entryway to being able to accept La ilaha illallah is Muhammad Rasulullah. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And Fatima kind of gives it away in the second line about the prayer. If the person is trying to worship Allah without accepting wilayat, the person is doing shirk. Not openly, but secretly. He didn't take an idol and set it up beside him. Right? What's the shirk? It's his nafs. He is trying to put himself there that I get to say what Allah says, which is a way of challenging the position of Allah. Because Allah says, no, I say what I say, and this person is going to tell you what I said. This person's going to explain what I said. This person's going to be the example of what I said. This person's going to be Islam put into action. And if you refuse that, it's like you didn't accept the message at all. One of the big problems that they had with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. They said, why are you the prophet? Why isn't it one of the great men from the Quraysh? They were thinking Walid bin Mughira or, I don't know, Abu Jahl or one of these people who had a lot of money. He should be the prophet. Why? There was this takabbur in them about, they have what's the surah? Al-Hakum al-Takathur. They were trying to be the biggest and the greatest and the most powerful. They said that they would be arguing with each other. This different tafsir of this surah, but one from which is Sahih, is that the famous meaning meaning that you wanted to gather wealth until you died. That's one meaning. But they said one of the sabab al-nuzul was that they started arguing. One tribe is saying, my tribe is bigger than your tribe. And the next one is like, my tribe is bigger than your tribe. Until they started counting the members. They were like, we have, Hisham bin Urwa, and we have Qadda, and we have Zayd bin such and such. And finally, they ran out of people. He started counting dead people. So they had so much arrogance and pride in their numbers, or whatever it is, money, Bitcoin. This is how people are. And Allah needs to break that pride, because they want to be, that once they enter that thing, they want to say, I am the only one who understands. Basically, they're trying to make themselves Allah, or some sort of mini God. Like you have Allah, and I'm sort of the they're nafs. So many people, why they don't accept Islam, they say, well, what about what I think? Nobody cares what you think. We have to use our aql and our reason to guide us to the right path, to guide us to the sayings of the Prophet, to distinguish truth from falsehood, not to do ijtihad and start making up our own rules. This is what they're wanting to do. They're wanting to raise their nafs and their place above and beyond what it's supposed to be. So they have to accept the Prophet. No, what the Prophet said is what you do, not what you come up with on your own. And no, you don't get to interpret it by yourself, because then they say, well, darn, I can't take that position, so they try to take the next position. I'll do the tafsir of the hadith and things on my own. No. This is one of the issues. They say, well, how come it's not Quran and Sunnah, right? They say, no, we don't accept that it's the, inni tarakum fikum athaqalain Kerbala wa itrati ahl bayt. They say, no, that's a Muzawwir Shia hadith, except it's in their books. And even in their books, which is in Sahih Muslim, this hadith from Zayd ibn Arqam, he specifies that, no, it's not the wives of the Prophet. It's in their books, and he specifies, no, the Ahl Bayt is the family of the literal blood relatives of the Prophet. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. They want to now, what's the weakness? The weakness of the Quran is it's perfect, but how can it be misused? I can have a wrong understanding of it. Such and such ayah doesn't mean that. And then the Quran can't speak for itself or do jihad for itself. So it has this weakness of it can't put itself into action. It's like a mission statement, but people have to carry it out. So if you say the Sunnah has the same problem as the Quran except worse. Now it's not even ma'soom. So the Quran, at least we know what it is, and Allah is going to protect it, so it's going to be perfect. But when you have the Sunnah, then now you have the same problem, that it can't bring itself into action. It can't translate how it means. It can't say now is that. It can say that jihad is good, but it can't say now is the time for jihad. It can say salat is good, but it can't say now is the time for salat. It can say such and such is good, but it doesn't answer it directly. It doesn't show you how to do it directly. Whereas having the Ahlul Bayt there, walking and talking and living and showing how it looks in real life, explain, because the same problem that you have with the Quran. I say the ayat means this, you say it means that. How do we break the tie? They would have the same problem with the hadith. You bring hadith, I bring another hadith. You say this one's sahih, I say no, it's da'if. There's no way to break the tie. Especially if you want to be on the wrong path. But you can't argue with the presence of the Ahlul Bayt. The other thing is that some people say, well, because the hadith have XYZ da'af. No. When you have them together, the Quran, you have the hadith, you have the Ahlul Bayt, when you have it all together, this is one ma'soom thing backing up another one. And even if an individual hadith, we do this when we're studying like news, right? So sometimes an individual piece of news, by itself, you can't verify it. But when you accumulate them together, you can verify it. What do I mean is this. You have the individual stories, let's say, coming out of Gaza, right? This person says, I'm getting killed. This person says there's destruction. This person says it's a genocide. And then they say, no, actually that hospital wasn't really a hospital because this, and that hospital wasn't really a this because. But what can you get when you take the cumulative? They've destroyed every single hospital in Gaza. So even if you So there is a cumulative truth that there is widespread destruction, which definitely needs to be answered to. And then you take other cumulative truths of, the wanton destruction. You can come to a conclusion that it wasn't an accident. You can come to a conclusion they enjoyed it. They come to the conclusion they did it intentionally. Even though maybe one incident by itself gives you an indication but not proof. But when you have cumulative, it gives you proof. The same for, let's say we say that one of my teachers said that we have some hadith which is mutawatir. Like, فَمَنْ كُنْتُ مَوْلَاهُ فَهَذَا عَلِيٌّ مَوْلَى صلي على محمد وعلى محمد. You can't deny this hadith because it comes from so many sources and things like that. And then not only does it come from multiple sources, there are other sources in the past which people refer to that. Like sometimes in a story, there's a hadith where Imam Ali says, who heard someone say this? And then people do X, Y, and Z. But he doesn't refer what they heard, but he indicates. Other people have so not only is there the hadith itself that has multiple sources, then there's also like circumstantial evidence. Other people talking about the event and hinting that it happened. So when you combine that, it's 100% sure that it happened. But then you have other things which by one hadith by itself doesn't prove it. But when you have the accumulation of it, like, then it proves it. Like the shuja'at of Imam Ali, right? The bravery of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So you have one hadith that he was brave in Badr. You have another one he was brave in Uhud. You have another one he's brave in Khandak. You have another one he's brave in Khaybar. You have another one he's brave in Hunayn. You have another one he's brave in Siffin. You have another one that he's brave in Nahrawan. What is the conclusion? He's brave. Salli ala Muhammad wa alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alayhi Muhammad. So this is cumulative tawatur, meaning that we're taking that there's a compilation, that there's too many reports of him being brave, that this is not possible. And the same for many things, that sometimes that we can know that the Prophet established that there's 5 prayers in a day. He established this, that, and the other. He established certain rules. He was into, let's say, cleanliness. He was into some of the things we can establish by the collective, and then we can go to the tafsilat. And now that we know a general picture, hadith that agree with that are now again acceptable. And hadith that disagree with the cumulative picture are not acceptable. So let's say once we have the cumulative picture of the shuja'at of Amir al-Mu'mineen, then if somebody says, oh, the reason he didn't fight for Hazrat Fatima is because he was scared. You say, no. We have too much evidence that he's brave. If he didn't fight in this instance, it has nothing to do with bravery. Maybe we could politics, or maybe it can be to do with, other things, the greater good, orders from the Prophet, but it can't be lack of bravery, because it's already established that he was brave, especially militarily brave. And then he also shows bravery of ideologically brave and this type of thing too. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now, this iman, it's getting rid of shirk by defeating one. First of all, la ilaha illallah defeats all of the possibility of all of these idols and false gods and other gods and helpers and imaginary beings and all of this type of thing. But then the second part of the shahadat and the Ahlul Bayt that are coming with it defeat this nafsi, this bigger idol, which is the idol of their own nafs. This is one of the reasons why some people refuse the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Because if Allah has already chosen the wali and made it mushakhas, then there's no chance for you. So if I want to be, Sheikh Farouk al-Amriki and decide to do my solo jihad and take over the world, right? I already have a wali over me. I can't do that. I can't force myself to be Khalifa by force. Why? We have Imam Mahdi, ajallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alayhi. No matter how righteous I decide to become, I become very righteous. MashaAllah, I have a nice big tasbih. I get a really, one of those really big, thick turbat, not the skinny ones, not the real ones. Actually, get the little leather socks. I don't know, the whole gamut. I can't reach to the level of the Ahlul Bayt. So what does it do? It forces me to do a very important step, which is you have to have humility. You have to bow your head down a little bit, which is what Allah asked from Shaitan, and Shaitan said no. You have to say no. I accept the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen over me. And then Allah gave us another test. What? Because there's absence of the Imam, so we want to get away with the test. We say, well, I accept Imam Mahdi. He's nowhere here, so now I'm in charge. No. He said, no. Now you still have to accept the wilayat of the ulama. There's people who refuse it, right? They know, I'll go and I read Arabic, mashallah, and I go and I get the Quran, I read it myself, I read some hadith, I don't need any ulama. Don't understand the fiqh, they don't understand how they come to the ruling. They read one ayat of Quran, he wants to be the sheikh. Other ones, one of them, he's like, I refuse the ulama. Why? Because he's a Persian. One of them, he's like, he refused it. He was like, I did all of this time fighting against, white people, and now you're going to give me a white man I have to accept that as a martyr. I refuse this. Just like, the same logic of Shaitan. It was like, not like, not, okay, he doesn't have knowledge of the religion. Nothing like logical. Just racism. And people, they go to hell because of this. Like the person is mujahid, and like just like Shaitan, he like went to jail maybe for Islam and fought for Islam and lost his friends and family, made himself Shia. Like he did all of this jihad, and then when it came to the wilayat of the ulama, he rejected it on racism. Like bottled all of his actions. So we should never feel like that's something that we need to constantly remind ourselves, is to not do that. And that hasad and that envy and that takabbur I tell people it'll come from whichever way you have a weakness. So if your arrogance is about money, you think, I'm better than everybody because I have more money, then that's the door Shaitan will use. Your arrogance, I already mentioned, race, it can be American exceptionalism. Some people are like, no, I'm not going to accept. Why not? I'm an American. Why should I listen to? We had people do this, so I'm not making it up. I'm an American. Why should I listen to a Pakistani? I did all of this jihad and bottle all of their actions. Like the person became Muslim when no one was Muslim, converted people to Islam, lost friends and family. All of this jihad. Prayed to Allah, Allah, please send us the same way we do. Please, Allah, send us the Mahdi. We were like, when we were growing up, it was like, Allah, please just send us somebody who knew something about Islam. Somebody who can speak English, because we couldn't speak the other languages. Allah, please send us someone who can speak some English, and so we can learn our religion. And so Allah sends them some person, the sheikh comes, and they reject it out of racism. After all of that. And they like built the masjid with their own hands, and people would lose their deen. So it's important for us to accept these things and to get rid of this arrogance. And then Fatima puts the last part, and the salat is to get away your arrogance. We have a hadith, it's in the Sunni and the Shia books, which is that says that this arrogance and greatness is the cloak of Allah. And whoever pulls at the cloak of Allah, he destroys him in some of the hadith, or he throws him into hellfire in some of the hadith. Meaning that this is something that, and Amir al-Mu'mineen says that if arrogance was allowed to have anybody to be arrogant, it would be the prophets, and the imams would be allowed to be arrogant. But Allah does not let them be arrogant, much less us. Allah always makes that you have to have a little bit of humility in us. Think about it. Imam Ali was saying that the Kaaba is put where? In a barren land, in a desert, surrounded by mountains. Why? Because it's to make that you have to go there because of Allah. You can't just go there for some other reason. It wouldn't be an imtihan. It wouldn't be much of a test. The same with the khalq of Adam, alayhi salam. If Allah made him that he was glowing with light and he had this and that and the other, it wouldn't be much of a test because Allah is going to test you. Are you submitting to him, or are you submitting to just because it's bigger than you? Or are you doing the command of Allah? So Allah gives you a chance that He makes a way for you to refuse. The example was Harun and Musa came to Fir'aun, another of the Taghut of the time. His weapon at the time, the F-35, the nuclear bomb of that time, was the chariot. At this time, at the time of Musa, the horses are not big like how they are now. That's after breeding them, they made these horses. They used to be smaller, so they were harder to ride, and plus they hadn't invented like the saddles and stirrups and things that we have now. So they would tie the horses to the little wagon. They called it a chariot. And remember, the armies and things they weren't as advanced. So they just, how they have an army, they have a little like you see some of the Africans, they still do it. They have a spear and maybe like a leather shield. But that's what everybody had. So they get their little spear and their leather shield. And Fir'aun would attack them with chariots. And they have their little spear and shield, and he's shooting arrows and throwing rocks, and his chariot can zoom in and zoom back out and terrorizing all of the people in like Assyria and stuff. You read this history, like the Assyrian Empire and this, they would conquer all of North Africa and stuff. So he had these battle chariots. That was the weapon of the time. He had all this money, all this gold, all of this, that these Fir'aun were so rich that they dug up one of the tombs of like a pharaoh who was so poor that they had forgotten about it. Because all the pharaohs who were rich, whenever they died, they would go back in and they would steal the money out. So one of them, he was poor by the standards of the pharaohs. So when he died, they forgot about his tomb because they were busy robbing all of the other people. So finally, when the Europeans came, they dug out the gold in his tomb and they stole that. So much gold was in there that it changed, when they have how much, 0.5% or 0.005% of the amount of gold in the world changed, or what known amount, because of the gold in the poorest pharaoh that they had. Just to show how rich they were, just like the Jeff Bezoses of the time. So they had this pharaoh, war chariots, money, women, slaves from Europe, slaves from Asia, slaves from Africa. These people were rich and powerful. What did happen with him? Allah sent him Hazrat Musa. He has a stick, a shepherd with a stick, to challenge that. So you have to accept, the proof came, but you have to be able to make yourself humble. So this benefit of the prayers is being able, as Allah said in that first ayat which I read, is that it's a help, it's a source of strength. وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. But which people can't do that? Most people can't do it. It's too much for them. They don't have that type of tawakkul. The only people who can do it have this khushu. If the person, what's the khushu? He knows that Allah is greater than him. Then he's able to be persistent. He's able to forbear. He's able to keep going. Please give us salawat. We have another one. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Another benefit of this prayer is that this is the pathway to the shafa'at of the Ahlul Bayt. We kind of forget about this. That we have a hadith that from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He says, "Inna shafa'atana la tanalu mustakhaffan bis salat." That if a person takes this salat not seriously, he says, no, not seriously. Not that he doesn't ever pray. He just blows right through it. We won't give him shafa'at. So when we're trying to say we have this first part, it's our connection with Allah. It's our keeping us from being arrogant. It's opening up this important door to us. We can't make this salat light. We make it khafif. Who cares? We have to be, that's our foundation. Our two foundational pieces are our salat and our sabr. And when we put these parts in, we have to realize that, how much time do we have? I don't want to be going too long. Please give a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Salat in an hour? So we have some time. Inshallah. I don't know. Please give a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One of these important du'as that we had is that we have this dua and this example of Hazrat Ibrahim and how Ibrahim was doing all of this jihad and everything in the way of Allah. That Allah says that He's making him an imam for men. So part of the role of being an imam, like we were talking about early, is this is an example for people of how Allah wants you to behave. So what did Ibrahim do? First, he was by himself, doing basically a solo jihad against his qawm. Nobody supported him. That what did Ibrahim do? That Ibrahim was talking and arguing with his people, and finally Allah asked him, He said, go ahead and destroy their idols. So he destroyed the idols and he hung the hammer on the big idol. And then they proved them wrong. So the people gathered together and they wanted to throw him into the fire. This is what the Nimrud did, or whichever tyrant it was. It might have been Nimrud, it might have been a different one. But he wanted to throw him into a fire. And none of the people said, yeah, this is wrong. Everybody was silent. Even his own, not father, in quotations, his uncle who was supposed to be, was playing the role of his father, he rejected him. So they put the fire and they threw Ibrahim into the fire. They say that while Ibrahim was flying into the fire that they threw him, Jibreel came and asked Ibrahim, do you want me to help you? He said, no, I'm giving myself to Allah. If this is what Allah's decision is, I'm accepting this decision. And then Ibrahim landed in the fire. And then they were waiting to hear screams or yells or something. And so the tyrant of the time, he built himself a tower. He went and he looked down into the fire and he saw that Allah had made it cool and safe in a garden for Ibrahim. And he was so shocked that unintentionally he blurted out the truth. He said, surely this man's Lord loves him. He protected him. Then Ibrahim had to leave that place. He went to a different place and nobody followed him except for Lut and his wife and maybe just a few people. Very small group of people. He had to do hijrah. Then he didn't have any children. So he prayed to Allah, Rabbi habli minas salihin. His worry was that after him, nobody would be able to continue his mission. فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. And Allah gave him the glad tidings of a boy. Halim meaning that he's forbearing and has understanding. So this is Hazrat Ismail. And then Allah gave him a beautiful wife and He gave him a young son. Allah tested him again. He said, now take this. It wasn't enough that you did jihad by yourself. It wasn't enough that you put your life on the line. It wasn't enough that you put your money on the line. Now you have to take your son and your wife and then trust them to Allah. Leave them by Mecca. So he left his wife there and he didn't know what's going to happen to them, following the command of Allah. And Allah obviously saved them with Zamzam, as we know. And Hajar, the poor lady, running back and forth 7 times between the hills. And this is what's important. She is involved in the jihad. It's not just the man goes and he... And the most important part was that she had the understanding of obeying the wali without fully understanding all of it, but knowing that this was a command, that this is a prophet and this is a command. One of the things, I was doing some research on Hazrat Hajar. Hajar was actually one of the daughters of one of the Fira'in at the time, that when Ibrahim did his tabligh, she was so impressed with him that she left Pharaoh and she went to join with Hazrat Ibrahim, meaning that she left all of the money and wealth and everything that Pharaoh had and she went with Ibrahim. And to show that, you could say, she could have said, I left my father, I left this, I left that, and now you're going to go and take me out here and leave me in the desert? No, but Allah's doing imtihan, a test. Do you actually believe in Ibrahim or not? You really believe he's a prophet or not? And she's like, no. Never complained. She did her effort, she did her duty, she didn't complain. It's very amazing, very mujahid, by herself, with a baby on the line. Because this is like, when it turns to, people turn to kafir when their children are on the line. No. And Allah saved their family. Then after that, I like reading the ayat just because honestly how Allah says it is so beautiful. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ سَعِيًا. And you could say when he reached 15 years old or something like that, But Allah puts it in such a beautiful way. When he was able to keep up with him, meaning that your son now finally is able to help you. This is an important time for men because, when the kids are small, mashallah, you play with them a little bit. But it really starts to have, my investment paid off. My 401k now has money in it. Once the child reaches 15, 16, now he can fight with you, he can help you, he can dig for you, he can, carry out your commands. Now that his son had reached this level, Allah says to him, he says, Ya bunayya inni ara fil manami adhbahuka fandur madha tara. That I see in my dreams that I have to kill you. What do you have to say? And he knows this is a prophet. It's not like us, we have, dreams from shaitan or whatever, so we can't act on ours. But the prophets know their dreams are true. So this is showing that he truly was halim, meaning he understood the role of his father and that the dream of a prophet is true and everything. He could have said, no, I'm not going to do it. But he accepted. He said, If'al ma tu'mar, satajiduni inshallah min as-sabirin. He said, do as you are commanded. You shall find me by the will of Allah from the patient ones. Now is involving the wife and the children in the jihad. فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ. And then when they surrendered, and Allah says both of them they surrendered, meaning they both said that I'm going to obey the command of Allah, I'm not going to think about it. Once I know it's the command of Allah, that's it. Even if it's my most near and dear, even if it's my life itself, even if it's my children's lives. فَنَادَى أَنْ Ya Ibrahim qad sadaqta ru'ya. And so it said that you have fulfilled your command. وَإِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And this is how we reward the believers. But it says something interesting. I usually kind of stopped after. I would just either read through the whole surah, but I never really read it line by line. But the line after says, and surely this was a great test. وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ. This was a great test, meaning that even for a prophet, this was a test. But it's showing us that this is how we have to behave. Now, we're not going to be asked to do it exactly in that form, but this is going to be the format that it's going to be in. that we are going to be asked to establish truth and to establish justice, there's going to be a few things that we have to do. That we have to be able to stand up for truth if you're alone. This is an important part. It's easy to stand up when everybody's for the truth. You have to be able to do it if you're alone and it's going to cost you your life. And now a lot of times the life is not before the good old days, they would just kill you, so they would chuck you into the fire, right? Now it's your money, they make your life miserable, they blackmail you, they do all of these type of things because we are realizing that it's going to cost you your life. And then it might cost your wife and your children their lives. And we have to be prepared for that. We have a saying from Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, where he says something kind of summarizes it, that Labaik Ya Hussein is that for you to be in the battlefield, even if you're alone, and the people call you a liar, and the people falsely accuse you, and for you to be there with your wife and your children, it's for Zainab to dress Hussein in the clothes and give him the passport for Shahada. He also mentioned the story of one of the Mujahid who fought with Imam Hussain. It was just Amr ibn Janda. He was a son of Janada bin Harith, who was one of the Ansar. And Janada bin Harith was shaheed and killed. And then he asked Imam, he said, please give me permission to go and fight in the battlefield. And the Imam said, no, you have an old mother. I can't give you permission that you go and fight in the battlefield. And for bad people, this is you want to send everybody. Yawma yafirru mar'u min akhi. They want to send everybody to go do jihad and fight and to protect them. But for the people who are soft-hearted, for the people who are kind-hearted, this is so painful for them. That this young man who has his whole life ahead of him, he wants to go and fight. He said, no, go protect your mother, go help your mother. He said, no, my mother is the one who ordered me to go and fight in the battlefield. My mother is the one who ordered me to go and be shaheed. So then Imam Hussain had no choice. He said, go ahead and you can go and fight. And the young man went and he fought in the battlefield. And he came out and he was crying. He said, my commander is Hussein. He is the delight of the Prophet, of the heart of the Prophet, the giver of glad tidings and the warner. His father is Ali. His mother is Fatima. Do you know anyone who is like him? His face is bright and his forehead is like the moon. And he went and he fought against the oppressors until finally he got surrounded and he got killed. And after he got killed, they took his head and they threw it back to the mother. And then the mother picked up the head and she started wiping off the dirt and the dust. And she said, oh my son, you have made me happy today. And you'll make Fatima Zahra happy on the day of judgment. Ya Hussein. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون صلى على محمد وعلى محمد